Welcome to Louisiana Heart Beats. I'm Sudie Landry, and we've been having fun before the show even started. Today I have a guest who is not only a speaker and author, but he is also a Cajun humorist. And of all things, we both have come down with a sore throat, so bear with us. We're hoping we still have voice to talk. Curt Boudreaux is from actually the Cutoff, Louisiana, and so he is going to share with us the different books he has written about things that he speaks as he goes about. So first of all, let me just welcome you to the show, Curt.
Good. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I also found out that you are a retired principal of
Yes, I
many
am.
years.
Yes,
Where were you also teaching, and then you became principal?
I worked in Lafourche Parish and taught at Golden Meadow Junior High and became principal of Golden Meadow Up Elementary and was there my last 10 years in the educational system.
And let's see, that was in 1989. You said you retired.
Correct.
Wow, well, did you retire?
No, I retired to do the professional speaking.
So he retired and then took on another interest.
That's right, correct.
So you went into being a speaker. So how long did you actually not do anything before you started speaking?
Oh, I started doing it right away. I started speaking right away.
So you didn't take a vacation or anything like that?
Oh, I imagine I took a few days here and
A
there.
few days
I
here and
imagine
there.
so.
Once
It's
a
too far
person
back
is
to
dying,
remember.
no, well, it's a good guess. You didn't stay retired very long, for sure.
No.
I think people who stay busy stay healthier and live longer. And if you got something to say, you need to stay busy, and you have a lot to say. So, with that said, what did you go and speak about as far as when you started speaking? You left being principal, but you actually had taught many years also. What did you teach before becoming principal?
I taught physical education and social studies.
Okay. And then you became principal of what school? You want to
Golden
tell us?
Meadow Up Elementary.
All right.
Yeah.
Golden Meadow.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so then you decided to, now, did someone encourage you to start speaking, and why did you
I
start?
just actually started accidentally because honestly, I was deathly afraid to get in front of a group in my early years, even early adult years. And I would actually tremble and shake, and the mouth would get watery. And over the years, and getting in front of groups with in church and commentating and things like that, and actually working in our area as an MC for a cerebral palsy telethon, which scared me to death at first, and that's something my wife volunteered me for, that eventually became, helped out a lot in getting in front of a camera and not being nervous. And then I started doing programs. We were very innovative at the school, and we developed some programs that were very good that some other school systems wanted us to share with them. And so I would go there and present these programs, but I would be very nervous at first. But the more I did that, the more, or less rather, that I got nervous and shaky and things like that. And then finally got to the point where I enjoyed it. And then these programs, I decided I would submit a proposal for the National Principals Convention about presenting at the National Convention. And it was accepted, and it really went well, and they evaluate you. And so I did that 5 times, 2 different programs. And so that's when I realized that I had the ability to address audiences from different areas of the country and things of that sort.
So where were you born, and where were you raised?
In Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Thibodaux, Louisiana.
That's
Still
right.
a Louisiana boy.
Boudreaux from Thibodaux.
Boudreaux, with more Boudreaux, Thibodeau jokes, I'm sure, to come, and also books. Well, let's go ahead and share some of the places that you've been to speak.
Oh my goodness, I've
Just a
spoken
few.
in 25 states so far,
Okay.
and mostly in Louisiana, of course, but about 7 or 8 places in Mississippi, in Florida, Alabama.
Okay, what areas do you like to go to? What is it, schools or special events? What is your favorite genre, I guess, to ask?
I would think the convention scene where you might have maybe 300 to 500 people, something of that sort. I've spoken to larger crowds, but the larger the crowd, the less intimate it is.
There you go.
And so but any size crowd is okay with me, it doesn't matter.
Well, it sounds like you've been very busy and very successful, so wow, this is awesome. To even say, well, smaller crowds, maybe larger crowds, whatever. Well, I know that I got a little dose of your character before we started doing the show, and so we know
And you still
that
wanted me on.
I still wanted you on, And through all the jumping through the hoops, though, I've learned a lot about you now. Let's just move on towards some of those books that's on the background behind us.
Okay.
So you wrote your first book was about what?
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
And the reason what prompted that was that as a principal and teacher, I saw how important self-esteem was towards success. And you could tell the kids who had a strong self-esteem by the language they used, the way they carried themselves. And you could tell, and the ones who were more successful, they spoke with more confidence.
Right.
They were willing to try new things, and that really prompted me to look into it more. So I read a lot of books on self-esteem, did a lot of research, and decided that would be my first book. And when I left the school system, my goal was to publish a book within 5 years. Well, 1 year came, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and there's nothing. Because it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And you really don't know where to start. And as it turns out, while I was jogging in the neighborhood one day, the idea came to my mind about the ABCs of self-esteem. And that I should take a word that corresponds to each letter of the alphabet and write some chapters on it. So the outline was there. When I got in, I put it on the computer, but I let it sit there because I didn't, scared to start, really.
Right.
And it wasn't until a friend of mine, we were at a convention together, a conference for a National Speakers Association. We're talking, and she says, Curt, when you going to write a book? I said, well, soon. I said, well, no, when? I said, well, soon. She says, no, I mean, really, when? And I thought she was getting kind of pushy, you know. So I said, well, soon. She says, well, how about in 6 months? I said, well, okay, you know, so here we are, it's, you know, San Francisco, I think it was, or someplace. And I said, it's a Friday night. I said, oh, so that 6 months sounds like an eternity, you know. Well, she says, good. She said, I want to write a book too, so we can be book buddies. She said, I tell you what, Monday you send a copy of your introduction to me.
Okay.
And so I had done that already, so it was no problem. But that's how I progressed from that point. And then she got me to eventually do a chapter a week, and then finally 2 chapters a week. And so within the 6 months, I had the book done.
So this is
But without
someone,
that prompting, I probably would not have done anything.
now you'd still be saying soon.
Probably
And
so.
soon.
And soon. Because it's
You
hard
have
to
to have
take,
someone who believes in
it's
you.
hard to take that first step.
Yes,
It really is.
right.
You know, because your thought is, well, my God, I'm going to write something that people are supposed to read? And it really is daunting, really. And so you tend to put it off, you know. It's tomorrow, but as usual,
That's
tomorrow
a
never
part,
comes.
I'm also the president of the Writers Guild of Acadiana, and you are right, Curt. A lot of good stories are sitting in somebody's closet in a spiral notebook because they don't think it's good enough or they don't know when to start it. But someone comes along like me, and I hear people share some of the things that they're writing, and then I'm like a dog with a bone. I get behind them and I push and I push them. But the most rewarding thing is that's all I do. And they attend the meetings to get the confidence, and they eventually, it's amazing, I've been part of 2 or 3 major books. And all I did was encourage them. So I would like to thank that lady that was your person behind you that pushed you. Would you like to thank her personally on TV?
Yeah, her name is Tina Thomas, and she's written several books herself. And but she was the inspiration in the motivator behind me because.
And you still work close together?
No, I haven't seen it. Talked to him about 2 or 3 years now.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring up some of the books that you have written. Well, can you give us, before we move on to the actual series that you have, can you give us an example of the A, something that would be in that book?
Attitude.
Attitude. And in the book you would do what?
We talk about attitude. How is attitude formed, and how you can get a better attitude.
Okay.
And then I have a play on the ABCs at the end, where it'd be an attitude adjustment, behavior modification, and then confidence building.
Okay.
ABC. But each chapter is about maybe 3 or 4, 5 pages long. But it has a set
Awesome.
situation where, you know, it's easy to read, it's easy to use, basically like a workbook.
So that was the teacher, and that was the principal that came through in the ABCs, okay? All right, now, where did the humors take off? Because now you have 3 books that says, never kiss an alligator on the lips.
That's correct. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't
Why
do it.
not? I'm not a Cajun, so tell me, why not?
Why would you? That's the question I posed to you. But
Share with us your books then.
that came about by accident, really, because after the ABCs of Self-Esteem book, which is primarily for adults, but I would say someone that's, and certainly in high school, they could understand it, because I wrote it that way. I wasn't trying to impress anybody with vocabulary. I just wanted the book to be read, to be understood, and to be used. And so I wanted to keep it simple, which I did.
Was
And-
it mostly about jokes, or was
no,
it livelihood,
no,
just
no,
in
no,
general?
no, not jokes. No, it's things referring to those specific topics.
Okay.
Like attitude, B was belief, C was confidence, D
Okay.
decision-making, E enthusiasm, all the way through Z, you know?
Okay.
And so, but someone invariably asked the question, well, what is X? Well, I put, well, X, author's privilege, expectations. So,
Oh, that was a good way
So
to
that was a good
end
thought.
it.
That was a
Yeah.
good thought.
Okay, well, with the series that you have, series 1, 2, and 3, okay, that's your books
okay,
that's up
now
on the
never
screen.
kiss an alligator on the lips. The way that came about, I actually was going to try to do a follow-up on the self-esteem book, the ABCs of Self-Esteem, for teenagers. I had done some research and had sent out some questionnaires to counselors in the area, and was gathering some information to write a similar type format book, but for teenagers. And I belonged at that time to the National Speakers Association, and we'd get speakers coming in every month to talk to us about different aspects of the speaking profession. And this guy is Mark LeBlanc. And Mark was from Minnesota.
Okay,
And so in the course of his presentation, he tells the story about his sister, who in Minnesota, in the dead of winter, went to the bathroom. And when she came out of the bathroom, she came out with a litany of, you know it's cold in Minnesota, when? Well, that triggered in my mind right away, well, Jeff Foxworthy thing, you know, you might be a redneck if. And it went from that to one step further, that you might just be a Cajun if. And so I started thinking and said, you know, I said, I can get together some, you might be a Cajun if. Then I started thinking, so, you know, there's probably thousands and thousands of stories floating around out there with my name on it, the Boudreaux Thibodeau stories. So that's when I started gathering those stories. And as I gathered them, I had no idea of a format for the book like I did for the first one. The first one was easy from the standpoint that I had the format done, and I just had to flesh it out. But for this one, I didn't know what I was going to do. But as I gathered the stories, I started to see some clusters form, like things on religion, things on
Yeah.
politics,
Okay.
things on fishing, things on hunting, that kind of thing. So that's why I started making chapters like that. Boudreaux on fishing, Boudreaux on hunting, Boudreaux on religion, Boudreaux on the law, Boudreaux on this, Boudreaux on that. And then wrote the stories in Cajun dialect.
because this is a great show. I'm also part of the Cajun Comic Relief. Jim Richard organized that he does yearly, every March. And he's always looking for comedians and humorists, and they tell a lot of Boudreaux and Thibodeau jokes. But according to you, in these 3 books that you've done, there's no stories that's repeated.
That's
Now,
correct.
people have personally told you some stories, and you also, how did you go about choosing your stories to put in your books? At random, or just people you knew, or just a
No,
bunch?
if I liked the story, I put it in.
If you liked
I
the
had to
story?
like it. That
Okay.
was the.
That's the number one
gauge.
thing. And so it was Cajun.
And
And
if I thought it was funny.
you thought it was funny, you would put it in, of course. And being the Cajun boy you are, you surely were going to emphasize on that Boudreaux and Thibodeau thing, right?
Absolutely.
Right, right.
But wait, we got to correct that though.
What's that?
It's not Thibodeau. It's not
No,
Boudreaux and Thibodeau.
it's all
no,
Boudreaux.
let's get. Oh no, Shell. Let's get that straight
Well, let's
right
get
now.
it straight now, because that's why I brought it up.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of Boudreaux and Thibodeau out there, but this is a new spin
Right.
of what you're doing. So, once
First
again,
of all,
Katie Anna, this
even,
man's going to clear it up.
even though I'm from Thibodeau originally, I left Thibodeau out of it because Thibodeau never did anything for me. So I created a cast of characters: Boudreaux, his wife Clotilde, his son Junior,
Junior.
and his partners, his buddies, Shawi, Kaiwan, getting tongue-tied, a little tongue-tied. Shawi, Kaiwan, Kaimon, Gaston, Tibor, and Tibrud. Those are the 6 characters in the book.
They sound Cajun.
They are Cajun.
We see, that's why I was pulling all that out, because I remembered you saying, wait a minute now, you know, this, and you had named those characters earlier. Well, that is wonderful. So, is there one story on the top of your head that you kind of share with them, give them a sample?
Well, Okay, and you know, even though I'm not doing, sometimes I've done programs on strictly Cajun humor, which is not my
Which we're
favorite
gonna
thing to
run it
do.
into what you do, which is
Which is,
speaking.
which is not my favorite thing to do. But whenever I give a program
Yes.
or do a talk, I include the Cajun humor in it. And even if they're from away, I've done a lot of programs in New Orleans hotels for conferences that come away with maybe
Right.
500,000 people.
That's right.
And even though they're not familiar with these stories, when I get to the first story, I will give them a little background, a sort of a quick study in
Right.
Cajunnology,
Okay,
and let them know what the Sha and Couillon means, and Beb, and things of that sort, those words.
that's important.
Well, sure,
It is.
but once they know that, and then I break into the Cajun dialect, I mean, they love the stories. And what I'll do is, I will tell a story that will give a moral or a lesson to the point I'm trying to make. That's how I use the Cajun humor. When I give a regular talk, I say regular, it's not to local folks, it's not just Cajun humor, but folks enjoy that, because when people come from out of town, out of state to New Orleans, they want something Cajun.
Yes.
They not only want the food and the culture, but they want something with something like this, and they really enjoy it, they love it.
That's it. And also, too, not only do you have your books available, if anybody's interested, they can check out the webpage. I'm not sure if they put it up there yet, but you're Curt Boudreaux. Oh, there it is, there it is.
And they can go to my
They
website?
can actually check it out
Sure.
and find out what you're doing, where you're going to be.
Sure.
But let's also share about these audio tapes that you've got, and what books do they match? You also have audio
Well,
tapes.
let me take a step back.
Okay.
The first book sold so well that I decided to write a second volume.
go.
And no stories repeated. And the only thing, I added a few more things. I added a Boudreaux genealogy that
Okay.
a friend of mine had researched for me, he had done. And then I also added some recipes, some bona fide recipes that I
Wow,
got
that's
from friends
different.
and gave them credit in the
Okay.
book for it. And wrote the recipes out in Cajun dialect as well, but had some fun with that. But now each one of the 3 volumes has a glossary of terms.
Okay.
And some of it is very, very obvious, the wording. But there's some words that they don't know, like what a pirogue might be, or something
Right,
of that sort, or what the
right.
hubba hubba was.
Yeah.
Hubba Hubba
What
was
is Hubba Hubba?
That was a little ballroom slash cafe in Galliano owned by Mr. Manuel Toops, who was known as the Cajun ambassador, who had such a raucous laugh that when you heard him laugh, you'd never forget it. But a lot of the stories take place in the Hubba Hubba. That's where people would be going down to the coast, down the Grand Isle, going fishing or camping, whatever, that they might stop and get a cold beer, a cup of coffee, or some fishing tackle or something like that. And they might gather there and tell stories. So that's where a lot of the stories take place, at the Hubba Hubba.
Well, I've been here 46 years or a little bit longer, and that's the first time I even find out close to what Hubba Hubba meant.
Well, I tell you what, a sheltered life you have led.
Yeah, I was busy. I married a Cajun boy. As a farmer, you would have thought he had told me something like this, but it didn't work out like that. Well,
So anyhow, like, as I was saying,
Yeah,
the
keep
first book sold so well that I decided to write a second book. And so I gathered stories from friends and gave them credit in the book, in the front.
no, you got to get this clear. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. And people, I had
Right.
to ask him, what is the name of the book?
Never Kiss an Alligator on the Lips.
Volume 1 and
Volume 2,
Volume.
Volume 3.
Yeah, see, that just fits into your. Instead of worry about changing the titles like 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, you don't mess with success. You know, if it works, do it, use it.
And another thing too, talking about success, you have really been busy since you retired in 1989, and it looks like you're still going strong and you're still willing to keep on putting it out there that you would like to speak.
Sure,
Motivational,
absolutely.
encouraging.
Yes,
So you just can't get that help mode out, huh?
that's right.
You're just a natural born teacher and an inspiration type of person. I find this by sharing, it's amazing the backgrounds of people who become authors. It's amazing the different backgrounds that they actually have come from. I mean, even geologists write in certain genres
Sure.
you never thought that they would write, or retired psychologists, psychiatrists. I mean, it's amazing. And you, okay, you're about the second principal I've met. One does children's stories, but yet your covers look funny. They're humorous.
And you know, oftentimes when people see the covers, they think it's a child's
Yeah,
book.
that's why I brought that up.
And I always let them know that it's not, that, you know, someone probably in their late teens could understand it. I don't think a 10-year-old would understand it very much. To try to read the dialect, I don't think that they could struggle through that to begin with.
Well, I don't know. My
But-
little 5-year-old's reading stuff now that I couldn't read it at her level in the kindergarten. But I love the artwork.
And then the covers, my next door neighbor, Dolores Granger, did it for me. And I just told her, I said, Dolores, I said, I'd like you to have what you consider a Cajun, like Boudreaux, looking at an alligator, and see what you can come up with. And she came, this is volume 1, and the only thing that I asked, the lips were too pronounced, more pronounced than this, and I asked her to kind of tone it down a little bit, and that she did that. And so that's how it worked out.
In the show right now, but I think I saw about 9 minutes, 10 minutes. Are we closing out?
Yeah.
Closing out? Okay. And closing for the second time. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and close out the show, and I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. And due to all the little things that try to stop the show, it's going to be a wonderful show after we have it edited out and everything.
I don't doubt that for a
And I
second.
thank you so much for taking your time to come out and for traveling the distance. And I appreciate it, and we will be getting you back here again, I'm pretty sure. And so thank you for coming in, Curt Boudreaux. And Katie Anna, this is an author, a speaker, and he is a humorist.
With the last reminder.
Go ahead.
Never kiss an alligator on the lips.
Never. Now you say it. That's your line.
Never kiss an alligator on the lips.
And so if you are interested in finding out more about Curt, you just have to check him out. He definitely has a website that was up there during the show. And who knows? If you're interested in him coming to speak, then check out his website and see where he's at and where he might want to go. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this series. And we look forward to hearing in the future what's going on. You like that ending too, huh? Thank you.
No cages will harm.